The Azaxian Empire's scout ship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. Captain Zexthor stood on the bridge, his scaled hands clasped behind his back as he studied the holographic display of this unexplored region. His species had ruled most of the known galaxy for over 10,000 years, and this was just another routine expansion mission. Life signs detected on multiple planets and orbital stations, Captain, reported his sensor officer. The dominant species appears to be in their early space age. They've only colonized their moon and the fourth planet. Zexthor flicked his tongue in amusement. These missions were always the same. Find a new species, demonstrate overwhelming force, and add them to the Empire's growing list of servant races. Send the standard first contact package to their largest population center. The message was simple: submit to the Empire or face extinction. It had worked on 37 other species before. None had lasted more than a few days against the Empire's might. The humans' response came within hours. A single video transmission showed a human female in a blue uniform standing at a podium. Her words were translated in real time. To the Azaxian Empire, we have received your demands. Our response is simple: leave our space immediately. We do not wish for conflict, but if you force this war upon us, you will regret it. This is not a threat. It is a warning from one spacefaring civilization to another. You don't want this fight. Laughter erupted across the bridge. These primitives, with their handful of space colonies, dared to threaten the mighty Azaxian Empire. Send the standard response to such defiance, Zexthor ordered. Target their colony on the fourth planet. A small plasma bombardment should show them their place. 3 Azaxian warships moved into position above Mars. Their weapons charged, targeting the largest human settlement, New Armstrong City. The attack lasted less than 5 minutes. Green plasma rained down on the dome-covered city, meant to breach its protective shields and expose the colonists to the harsh Martian atmosphere. What happened next would be recorded in Azaxian military history as the moment everything changed. Instead of panicked civilians running for shelter, the entire colony transformed before their eyes. Hidden defense platforms emerged from the ground. The transparent dome turned opaque and metallic, revealing itself as advanced armor plating. Every civilian structure shifted and changed, pieces moving like a puzzle until the peaceful colony had become a fortress. Impossible, Zexthor whispered as his sensors showed readings he couldn't comprehend. Those are civilians. How do they have military-grade weapons? The answer came in the form of devastating return fire. The colony's defense systems, hidden until now, launched a coordinated attack that crippled one of his ships within minutes. The civilians, who moments ago had been going about their daily lives, operated the weapons with practiced efficiency. "Sir," his communications officer shouted, "we're detecting similar transformations across all their colonies and orbital stations. Every human structure. They're all military installations in disguise." Zexthor watched in growing horror as his sensors showed the truth. These humans hadn't built colonies. They'd built fortresses disguised as civilian outposts. Every ship, every station, every structure was revealing its true military nature. As his ships retreated to a safe distance, Zexthor received another transmission from Earth. This time, it was a different human, wearing a dark uniform decorated with medals. "We warned you to run," the human said simply. "Now you'll learn why." The message ended, leaving Zexthor with the chilling realization that his empire had just stumbled into something unprecedented. For the first time in his long career, he felt genuine fear as he sent an urgent message to the Imperial Command. "We have made a terrible mistake." Admiral Kraz stood before the Imperial War Council, his scales pale with worry as he presented the latest intelligence about humans. The Grand Chamber, filled with the Empire's highest military leaders, fell silent as holographic images of human battles filled the air. "Our initial assessment was catastrophically wrong," Kraz began, his voice echoing in the chamber. "We thought humans were like every other species we've encountered. with dedicated warrior and civilian castes. We were wrong. They're all warriors. He played a recording from a captured security feed. It showed what appeared to be a human maintenance worker single-handedly taking down 3 Azaxian soldiers in hand-to-hand combat. This human was what they call a plumber, someone who fixes water pipes. Yet he fought with training that matches our elite forces. The council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats as more footage played. A human chef turning kitchen tools into weapons, a teacher organizing a complex defense strategy, a farmer operating advanced military equipment. Their entire species trains for combat, Kraz continued. They call it self-defense and teach it to their young. They have something called martial arts, combat techniques practiced as a hobby. Even their entertainment shows them how to fight. One of the council members raised a hand. Surely they can't all be effective warriors. Kraz changed the display to show various human military forces. That's another problem. They don't have one army. They have hundreds. Every region on their planet maintains its own military force. They've spent centuries fighting each other, developing different combat styles and strategies. Now they united against us, sharing all that knowledge. The display shifted to space battles. A human cargo ship suddenly transformed, panels sliding away to reveal weapon systems as it engaged an Imperial cruiser. Their merchant fleet is a disguise. Every civilian ship can become a warship. They've been preparing for war while pretending to be peaceful. The council chamber erupted in shocked whispers. This violated everything they knew about civilized species. Warriors were warriors. Civilians were civilians. That was the natural order. There's worse news, Kraz said grimly. Remember the primitive projectile weapons we discovered in their history? They never stopped making them. While developing energy weapons, they kept improving their old weapons too. They have backup weapons for their backup weapons. He showed footage of human soldiers switching seamlessly between energy rifles and traditional firearms when their primary weapons failed. No other species does this. They all abandon old technology when they discover something better. But humans keep everything that works. The council's leader leaned forward. How do they maintain all this military readiness during peacetime? Kraz laughed nervously. They invented something called weekend warriors, civilians who train as soldiers part-time. They have shooting ranges where they practice combat for fun. Their young play paintball and laser tag, games that simulate warfare. They're constantly ready for war even in peace. The display showed more images. Human children playing war games, civilians at shooting ranges, peaceful towns with hidden bunkers, and ordinary people practicing combat skills as a hobby. We thought their space program was civilian research, Kraz concluded. But look at their rockets, designed to be easily converted to carry weapons. Their satellites, dual purpose for surveillance. Even their civilian spacesuits can be modified for combat in minutes. He took a deep breath before delivering the final blow. This isn't just a war against human armies. We're fighting an entire species that has evolved to combine civilian life with constant military preparedness. They'd been hiding their true nature, not just from us, but from themselves. They genuinely want peace, but they never stop preparing for war. The council chamber remained silent as the implications sank in. For the first time in the Empire's history, they faced an enemy where every civilian was a potential soldier and every peaceful tool could become a weapon. They had started this war expecting to fight human armies. Instead, they were fighting humanity itself. General Yix slammed his fist on the holographic table, making the battle map flicker. 3 months into the war with humans, and nothing made sense anymore. His forces controlled most of Earth's orbital space, but they couldn't claim a single victory on any planet or moon where humans lived. "Show me the latest attack," he ordered his staff. The map zoomed in on what had been an Imperial supply base on Mars just hours ago. Now it was nothing but ruins. "We still don't know how they did it, sir," his intelligence officer reported. Small groups of humans attacked from multiple directions at once. When our forces responded, the humans disappeared into underground tunnels we didn't even know existed. By the time we sealed the tunnels, they had already escaped through others. Yix watched the replay of the attack. The humans struck like shadows, appearing, causing destruction, and vanishing before the Empire's superior forces could respond. They called it guerrilla warfare, a concept that had never existed in the Empire's military history. What about the mining colony attack? Yix asked, switching the display to another battle site. Worse, sir. The humans disguised themselves as maintenance workers. They sabotaged our ship's engines during routine repairs. 15 warships crippled without firing a single shot. The general moved restlessly around the table. The Empire had always won wars through superior force and technology. But humans didn't fight like that. They refused to meet Imperial forces in open battle. Instead, they struck from hiding, used deception, and turned the Empire's own strength against it. Sir, a junior officer interrupted. We've lost contact with Forward Base 7. How? That base had our heaviest defenses. The humans. The officer seemed embarrassed. They used something called social engineering. They tricked our communications officers into believing they were receiving orders from Imperial Command. By the time we realized the truth, human forces had already infiltrated the base. Yix had never felt so frustrated. The Empire's military was built on order, hierarchy, and clear chains of command. But humans fought like chaos itself. They formed small, independent groups that could make their own decisions. If their leaders were killed, they didn't stop fighting. They adapted and kept going. The holographic display updated with new attack reports. Humans were hitting targets across the solar system, but there was no pattern, no way to predict where they would strike next. They're learning our weaknesses too quickly, Yix muttered. Show me the civilian resistance activities. The map filled with thousands of red dots, each representing an act of resistance by human civilians. They were sabotaging equipment, spreading false information, and helping their warriors in countless small ways. Even human children were involved, serving as lookouts and message carriers. Sir, we intercepted their historical records, another officer reported. Humans have been practicing this type of warfare for centuries. They call it resistance fighting. Even when their nations fought each other, small groups of humans would keep fighting long after their armies were defeated. Yix studied the patterns of attacks. The humans were using their smaller numbers efficiently, striking where the Empire was weakest. They had turned their entire solar system into a weapon, using their knowledge of the terrain to their advantage. These humans, Yix said quietly, they're not just fighting to defend themselves. They're fighting to survive. And they're teaching others to do the same. He was right. Reports were coming in from across the Empire. Other conquered species were watching the humans and learning. For the first time, they were seeing how a smaller force could fight back against the mighty Empire. Send word to Imperial Command, Yix ordered. The humans aren't just resisting. They're rewriting the rules of war. And the worst part. He paused, looking at the countless attack reports. They're teaching every species in the galaxy how to fight like them. As if to emphasize his point, alarms began blaring. Somewhere in the base, another human attack had begun. But by the time they found where it was coming from, the humans would already be gone, leaving only chaos in their wake. Chief Scientist Vexera stared at the destroyed Imperial battleship through the observation window of her research station. 6 months ago, this ship had been the pride of the Azaxian fleet. Now it was being taken apart by human engineers who were learning its secrets far too quickly. Play the battle footage again, she ordered her assistant. The holographic display showed the battleship's final moments. It was attacking Earth when something small and fast struck its shields. Instead of bouncing off like normal weapons, this projectile phased through the shields as if they weren't there. Impossible, Vexera muttered, but she had watched it happen 100 times. Our shields have protected our ships for 1,000 years. How did they bypass them in just months? Her assistant, Kill, pulled up the analysis. The humans combined our shield technology with something they call quantum tunneling. They created a weapon that exists in two states at once. Our shields can't stop what they can't fully detect. Vexra's scales rippled with worry. The Empire had always relied on its superior technology. But humans didn't innovate like other species. They didn't try to copy Imperial technology exactly. Instead, they took it apart, understood it, and then combined it with their own ideas in ways no one had ever considered. "Show me the factory adaptations," she ordered. New images appeared, human manufacturing plants that had been converted to produce advanced technology in weeks, not the years it should have taken. The humans called it their military-industrial complex, the ability to turn their entire civilization's production toward war when needed. "They're not just copying our technology," Kill reported. "They're improving it. Look at this." The display showed a captured Imperial fighter being rebuilt by humans. They had kept the energy weapons but added their own projectile weapons as backup. They had simplified the controls, made the ship easier to repair, and added what they called redundancy, backup systems for everything. "Their progress is unprecedented," Vexra said. "Other species take centuries to understand our technology. The humans are doing it in months, and they're sharing everything they learned with each other." She watched recordings from different human research centers. Scientists from countries that had been enemies months ago now worked together, sharing discoveries and building on each other's ideas. They held something called hackathons, events where they worked non-stop to solve problems. "Sir," Kill suddenly called out, "we're detecting energy signatures from Earth. They're similar to our hyperspace drive, but somehow different." Vexra rushed to the sensors. Humans had been trapped in their solar system because they lacked faster-than-light travel. If they had cracked that technology too, they'd modified it. She realized with growing horror. They took our hyperspace drive design and combined it with something they call quantum entanglement. They're not just copying our jump technology. They're creating a completely new way to travel between stars. Warning alarms began blaring across the station. On the main display, dozens of small ships appeared, using this new hybrid drive. They moved differently than Imperial ships, jumping in ways that should have been impossible. "How are they innovating so fast?" Kill asked, his voice shaking. Vexra watched as the human ships demonstrated their new capabilities. "Because they never stopped dreaming about the stars," she answered. "All those years they spent making stories about space travel and imagining different ways to explore the universe. They were preparing for this without knowing it." She turned to her assistant. "Send an urgent message to Imperial Command. The humans aren't just learning our technology. They're changing it, improving it, combining it with ideas we never imagined. And they're doing it faster than any species we've ever encountered." As if to prove her point, the sensors detected another new energy signature. Somewhere on Earth, humans had just tested another innovation that would change the course of the war. The Empire's technological advantage was disappearing, and it was happening faster than anyone had thought possible. Commander Rickstall couldn't sleep. Like many action soldiers, he kept having the same nightmare. Humans emerging from shadows, striking without warning, disappearing like ghosts. 8 months into the war, and the Empire's mighty warriors were jumping at every sound. He walked through his flagship's corridors, checking on his crew. In one room, soldiers watched intercepted human entertainment videos called horror movies, trying to understand why humans made stories about fear for fun. In another room, analysts studied human military documentaries, growing more disturbed with each viewing. Commander, his psychological warfare expert, Dr. Zena, called out, "You need to see this." In the analysis room, screens showed different human broadcasts. They weren't military messages or battle plans. They were stories, myths, legends, all about human warfare. "Look at this," Dr. Zena pointed to one screen. "Humans have something called urban legends, stories they share to scare each other. Now they're making new ones about us, about how easily humans can defeat Azaxians. Our soldiers are hearing these stories from captured humans, and it's affecting their morale. Rick Stahl watched as more reports came in. Human resistance fighters were using psychological tactics that the Empire had never seen before. They would leave messages in empty bases. "We could have killed you, but we chose not to." They played human battle songs through captured communication systems. They sent images of Earth's ancient warriors to Imperial camps. "Show me the latest battle statistics," Rick Stahl ordered. Dr. Zena brought up the numbers. Imperial forces were stronger, better equipped, and had more advanced technology, but they were losing more fights than they won. The reason? Fear. "Our soldiers are terrified," Dr. Zena explained. "Humans don't fight like any species we know. They study their enemies' fears and use them. Look at this." She played a recording from a recent battle. Human soldiers had used simple tricks with lights and sounds to make a small force appear much larger. The Imperial troops, already nervous, had retreated from what they thought was a massive army. "They call it psychological warfare," she continued. "They've been practicing it for thousands of years. They know that breaking an enemy's spirit is as important as breaking their bodies." Rick Stahl moved to another screen showing human military training. They weren't just teaching soldiers how to fight. They were teaching them how to think, how to adapt, how to cause fear in their enemies. "Sir," a young officer interrupted, "we've lost contact with Outpost 9. Was it an attack?" Rick Stahl asked. "No, sir. The entire crew requested transfer. They say they keep hearing human laughter in empty corridors. Medical can't find anything wrong with them, but they're all convinced the outpost is haunted." Dr. Zena nodded grimly. "This is what humans do. They turn our own minds against us. They know we don't understand things like ghost stories or horror tales, so they use our confusion to their advantage." The screens showed more evidence of human psychological tactics. They would attack in ways that made no tactical sense, just to confuse Imperial commanders. They spread rumors that they could read minds, that they could become invisible, that they couldn't be killed. "The worst part," Dr. Zena said, "is their ability to adapt. When we learn to counter one of their psychological tactics, they create new ones. They're not just fighting our bodies, they're fighting our minds." Rick Stahl looked at his crew, seeing the fear in their eyes. The mighty Azaxian Empire had never faced an enemy like this. They could handle physical battles, but this warfare of the mind was something new and terrifying. "Send word to all commands," he ordered. "The humans aren't just defeating us with weapons, they're defeating us with fear itself." As if to emphasize his point, the lights in the room flickered. Everyone froze. Was it a technical problem, or were humans already aboard, playing their mind games? In the Empire's long history, they had never faced an enemy who understood that the strongest weapon wasn't the one you held in your hands. It was the one you planted in your enemy's mind. High Commander Dexthar, supreme leader of the Azaxian Empire's military forces, stood in the Imperial War Room watching his empire crumble. The giant holographic map showing their territory was changing. Not slowly as it had for 10,000 years while they expanded, but rapidly as they lost control of entire systems. "Another rebellion in the Centauri sector," an officer reported, his voice shaking. "They're using human tactics. 3 major planets have already broken free from our control. 10 months into the war with humans, and everything was falling apart. The mighty empire that had ruled most of the galaxy was facing something it had never experienced before: defeat. "Show me the latest human advances," Dexthar ordered. The display changed to show human warships emerging from their solar system. They had done the impossible. Not only had they developed faster than light travel, but they had improved it. Their ships could jump in and out of hyperspace faster than Imperial vessels, making them almost impossible to catch. "The humans aren't just defending anymore," his strategic advisor said. "They're attacking, but not like we expected. Look at this." The map showed human strike forces hitting Imperial supply lines, communication centers, and command posts. They weren't trying to conquer territory. They were systematically taking apart the Empire's ability to fight. "Sir," another officer called out, "we're getting reports from the outer colonies. The humans, they're teaching other species how to fight back." This was perhaps the most terrifying development. Humans weren't just fighting their own war. They were showing every enslaved species in the Empire how to win their freedom. They shared their tactics, their technology, and most dangerously, their ideas about freedom and self-rule. "Play the human transmission," Dexthar ordered. A human leader appeared on screen. She stood confidently, wearing what they now knew was a military uniform. "To the Azaxian Empire, we warned you, but you didn't listen. Now understand this. We're not fighting for conquest like you do. We're fighting to end the threat you pose to freedom everywhere. You started this war. We're going to finish it." The words sent chills through everyone in the room. Other species fought for their own freedom. Humans fought to free everyone. "Our forces in the core systems are reporting massive unrest," someone reported. "Slave species everywhere are rising up. They're calling it the human revolution, even though humans aren't even there." Dexthar watched as more red lights appeared on the map, showing where Imperial control was breaking down. The Empire had always maintained power by keeping conquered species isolated and afraid. But humans had shown them they didn't have to be afraid anymore. Incoming transmission from Earth Command. The human leader appeared again. "Your Empire is breaking apart, Commander Dexthar. You have two choices. Surrender and help us build something better, or watch everything you built collapse. You have 6 hours to decide." The room fell silent. In all their history, no one had ever dared give the Empire an ultimatum. "Sir," his oldest advisor said quietly, "the humans have activated some kind of quantum communication network. Every slave species in the Empire can now talk to each other. They're organizing, coordinating, just like humans taught them." Dexthar looked at the map again. The Empire's strength had always been its unity, its absolute control. But humans had introduced something more powerful, the desire for freedom. They never wanted this war, he realized finally. They warned us, told us to run, but we didn't listen. And now, he gestured at the map, where more systems were turning red every minute. Now they're not just defeating us. They're ending the very idea of empire. As if to prove his point, another sector declared independence. The empire that had stood for 10,000 years was collapsing in less than a year, all because they had threatened the wrong species. The humans hadn't just learned how to break an empire. They had learned how to break the chains of every enslaved species in the galaxy. 5 years after the war ended, former Azaxian High Commander Dexthar stood before a very different kind of audience. The Grand Hall of the new Galactic Federation building on Earth was filled with representatives from hundreds of species, former slaves and former masters, now sitting together as equals. He was here to teach a class called "The War That Changed Everything" to young diplomats from across the galaxy. The irony wasn't lost on him. The former supreme commander of the Azaxian Empire now teaching others about its greatest mistake. "Let me tell you about the day everything changed," Dexthar began, his voice carrying across the quiet hall. "We thought we were invincible. We had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. Then we met humans." The holographic display behind him showed scenes from the war. "We had superior technology, larger numbers, and more resources. But humans had something we didn't understand. They had learned to wage war while hating it." He walked among his students, seeing faces from worlds that had once been imperial colonies. Humans were unique. Every other species we conquered either loved war or feared it. Humans? They studied war endlessly while desperately hoping never to use that knowledge. The display showed human civilian structures transforming into military bases, peaceful ships becoming warships, and ordinary people becoming warriors. They built their entire civilization ready for war while working for peace. When we forced them to fight, they were more prepared than any species we had ever encountered. A young diplomat raised her hand. But if they were so good at war, why didn't they become conquerors like the Empire? Dexthar smiled. This was the most important lesson. Because humans understood something it took us 10,000 years to learn. True strength isn't about controlling others. It's about helping others stand on their own. The display changed to show the new Earth-led Galactic Federation. Unlike the Empire's forced slavery, the Federation was built on cooperation and mutual respect. Former slave species now had their own governments, their own militaries, and their own voices. Humans didn't just defeat us, Dexthar continued. They showed us a better way. When they won, they didn't seek revenge. Instead, they helped rebuild. They showed us that diversity makes us stronger, not weaker. He pulled up images of the new galaxy, trade routes between free worlds, cultural exchanges, shared scientific projects. The humans created something unprecedented. A galaxy where different species work together because they want to, not because they're forced to. The display showed the signing of the Federation Charter, where humans stood as equals with their former enemies. They even helped my people adapt to our new role. The Azaxians went from being feared conquerors to respected partners in galactic peace. But the most important lesson, Dexthar said, his voice growing serious, was one they tried to teach us from the very beginning. Remember their first warning. You don't want this fight. They didn't say it out of fear. They said it because they understood the cost of war better than we did. The hall fell silent as he showed the final image. Earth, now the center of galactic cooperation rather than imperial conquest. Humans proved that the strongest civilization isn't the one that can conquer others. It's the one that can turn enemies into friends. As the class ended, Dexthar looked out the window at Earth's blue skies. His people had spent 10,000 years building an empire through force. Humans had built something better in just 5 years through cooperation. We thought we were teaching the galaxy about power, he said quietly. Instead, humans taught us about strength. Real strength isn't about making others kneel before you. It's about helping them stand beside you. Outside, ships from 100 worlds moved peacefully through Earth's skies, a testament to humanity's greatest victory. They hadn't just won a war. They had created peace. And that, Dexthar knew, was why they had warned the Empire to run.